Picture a busy marketplace in ancient Greece. Merchants shout over each other, selling wine, olives, silk. Politicians argue about power, promising the people change. A young man brags about his family's wealth. An old man prays to the gods for good fortune. And standing at the edge of this chaos is Democritus. He doesn't preach, he doesn't argue, he just laughs. He laughs at the politicians fighting for power. He laughs at the wealthy man flaunting his coins. He laughs at the prayers to the gods, the desperation of the people, the endless chasing of things that don't last. Why does he laugh? Because to him, it's all an illusion. The wealth, the power, the prayers, even the choices that people believe shape their lives, none of it matters. Underneath, everything is the same, just atoms moving in the void. This is why they called him the Laughing Philosopher, and this is where our story begins, with a man who saw through human illusions 2,400 years ago, and dared to tell us that our choices are not truly ours.
Democritus was born in the city of Abdera, in northern Greece, around 460 BCE. Unlike Plato and Aristotle, he wasn't from Athens, the center of philosophy. He came from the margins, from a place many Athenians looked down on. Stories say he traveled widely, to Egypt, Babylon, even India, learning from different traditions. But at home, he was often mocked. The Athenians thought of him as eccentric, and yet Democritus had a gift. He looked at the world with brutal clarity. Where others saw gods, he saw nature. Where others saw divine purpose, he saw matter in motion. He was called the Laughing Philosopher, not because he was cruel, but because he found most human concerns ridiculous. We spend our lives chasing power, wealth, reputation, as if these things are permanent. But to Democritus, they were just illusions, temporary arrangements of atoms that will one day scatter. And that's why he laughed. He laughed at the vanity of kings, the prayers of beggars, and even the illusion of freedom itself. Democritus was born in the city of Abdera, in northern Greece, around 460 BCE. Unlike Plato and Aristotle, he wasn't from Athens, the center of philosophy. He came from the margins, from a place many Athenians looked down on. Stories say he traveled widely, to Egypt, Babylon, even India, learning from different traditions. But at home, he was often mocked. The Athenians thought of him as eccentric, and yet Democritus had a gift. He looked at the world with brutal clarity. Where others saw gods, he saw nature. Where others saw divine purpose, he saw matter in motion. He was called the Laughing Philosopher, not because he was cruel, but because he found most human concerns ridiculous. We spend our lives chasing power, wealth, reputation, as if these things are permanent. But to Democritus, they were just illusions, temporary arrangements of atoms that will one day scatter. And that's why he laughed. He laughed at the vanity of kings, the prayers of beggars, and even the illusion of freedom itself. This is why Democritus laughed. He watched people chasing wealth, as if coins could protect them from death. He saw politicians fighting for power, as if they could control fate. He heard prayers for eternal life, as if the soul wasn't just atoms destined to scatter. To him, it was all vanity. Human beings were like children, building castles in the sand, convinced they were permanent, when in truth, the tide would always come and wash them away. He laughed not to mock, but to remind himself, don't take illusions seriously. Life is fleeting. The universe is just motion. The sooner we accept that, the more peaceful we become. Now we reach the heart of Democritus's philosophy, the illusion of free will. If everything is atoms obeying natural laws, then nothing happens by chance. Every event is caused by what came before. You decide to drink water instead of wine. But that decision was shaped by thirst, biology, habit, atomic forces inside you. You decide to forgive someone, but that forgiveness is just atoms in your brain, reacting to memory, upbringing, and emotion. Even your decision to watch this video was determined long before by the chain of events that led you here. For Democritus, free will is a comforting story we tell ourselves, but reality is necessity. You cannot escape the motion of atoms. This conclusion is disturbing. If he's right, then blame and praise lose meaning. How can you punish someone for doing what was inevitable? How can you admire someone for an act that was predetermined? But Democritus didn't despair. Instead, he found freedom not in changing the atoms, but in understanding them. Most philosophers hated his ideas. Plato supposedly despised Democritus so much that he wanted every copy of his writings burned. For Plato, the soul was eternal. The world had purpose. Democritus destroyed those beliefs. Aristotle rejected atoms too, because they made the universe seem mechanical, soulless. He preferred his own theory of matter and form. For centuries, Democritus's works were ignored. Many were lost forever, but his ideas did not vanish. Over 2,000 years later, modern science would rediscover them. Today, we know atoms are real. Matter is made of particles, and in some ways, Democritus's vision was eerily accurate. What makes Democritus so haunting is how closely his vision matches modern discoveries. Neuroscience tells us the brain begins to act before we become conscious of a decision. Psychology shows how our choices are shaped by subtle cues, advertising, framing, algorithms. Physics shows the universe obeys strict laws of cause and effect. All of this echoes Democritus. What we call choice may just be atoms following their path. Even technology proves the point. Algorithms predict what we'll buy, what we'll watch, even who we might date. They don't need to take away our choices. They just guide the atoms, and we follow. It's as if the 21st century is confirming what Democritus saw in the 5th, that our freedom is smaller than we like to believe. So, if free will is an illusion, how should we live? Should we despair? Should we give up on meaning? Democritus didn't think so. He believed the goal of life was euthymia, a state of cheerfulness, balance, and peace. To reach it, we must laugh at illusions. We must stop chasing immortality, wealth, or fame. We must accept death as natural, the scattering of atoms. And most of all, we must understand that suffering comes from clinging to what was never in our control. Democritus's wisdom was this: once you see that life is atoms, you are no longer a slave to illusions. You stop fearing the gods. You stop worshipping false power. You stop tormenting yourself with guilt or pride. You may not be free to control the atoms, but you are free to understand them, and in that understanding lies peace. Democritus lived 2,400 years ago. His city is gone. His body has long dissolved into atoms, but his laughter still echoes. If he is right, then your choices are not truly yours. They are the necessary result of atomic motion. But perhaps that's not a reason to despair. Perhaps it's a reason to live lightly, to stop clinging, to laugh, as he did, at the vanity of human illusions. The illusion of choice may never go away, but awareness of it can change how we live. Maybe that's the only freedom we truly have, not to change the dance of atoms, but to understand it. So I leave you with Democritus's silent question. When you make your next choice, will it really be yours? Or will it simply be the inevitable dance of atoms, moving as they always have and always will? This was episode 2, Democritus, the Laughing Philosopher and the Illusion of Choice. Thank you for watching.